Have you ever sat back for a moment and wondered why we, this group called Homo sapiens, managed to climb to the very top of the food chain and become the rulers of the earth? If you really look at us, we don't have sharp claws, we don't have fangs, we don't even have overwhelming physical strength. Out in the wild, we might not even stand a chance against a monkey. And yet today, from frozen tundras to mountain ranges, from the depths of the ocean to outer space, human footprints are everywhere. So the real question is this: how did humans manage to do it? From ancient apes who only knew how to use stones and eat whatever they could find in the forest, how did we build an advanced civilization like the one we live in today? Of course, most people will say it's because we're intelligent, because we evolved. That's true. But what was the real turning point that made all the difference? If you don't have an answer yet, then today, let's sit down and think about it together in this podcast episode. This will be a calm, relaxed conversation, following the rather heavy financial discussions from the Hidden Rules of Finance series. And if after listening you're curious about what I've talked about regarding money and finance, you can always check out that playlist later. But today's episode focuses on one fundamental question: why did humans come to dominate the earth? Welcome to the channel, Unsaid Truths, where you'll find truths society doesn't want you to know. Here's one simple fact. Around 70,000 years ago, our ancestors were just ordinary animals. Their influence on the world was no greater than that of monkeys, apes, or chimpanzees. And yet today, humans control almost the entire planet. So how did we travel such a long road to get here? How did we go from ordinary monkeys, spending our days eating bananas and climbing trees, to becoming the rulers of the earth? Let's first look at our physical abilities. When you really examine the human body and compare it to other animals, the truth is quite brutal. We don't actually have many advantages over chimpanzees. In fact, in a one-on-one fight, or even 10 versus 10, against chimpanzees, or animals like tigers, leopards, foxes, or martens, humans wouldn't have great odds of winning. Just imagine this. If you and a chimpanzee were dropped onto a deserted island and both had to fight to survive, almost no one would bet on you. They'd put all their money on the chimpanzee instead. And honestly, if you replaced yourself with almost anyone else, the result wouldn't change much. Well, except for a few survival legends you see on the internet. So where is the difference? The true difference between humans and other animals doesn't lie at the individual level. It lies at the collective level. Humans are able to control the planet because we are the only species capable of cooperating with one another in a flexible way, and on a massive scale. Remember these two words: flexibility and large numbers. Some people might argue that animals also live in herds and packs. So isn't that cooperation too? Not exactly. That's a common misunderstanding. Lower-level animals that live in large groups, like ants or bees, can cooperate in huge numbers, but their cooperation is rigid. They operate according to fixed patterns with almost no flexibility. If a major disruption occurs, a bee colony can't reorganize its entire society overnight. They can't overthrow their queen, executor, and establish a republic of bees, or a dictatorship run by worker bees the way humans have done throughout history. Mammals that live in groups, like wolves or chimpanzees, are more flexible, but the trade-off is scale. Their cooperation only works within very small numbers. Wolves and chimpanzees cooperate based on closeness and familiarity. A chimpanzee troop or a wolf pack lives together, raises offspring together, and hunts together day after day. But fundamentally, a chimpanzee in Asia cannot communicate or cooperate with a chimpanzee in Europe. Well, except for one special chimp in China who somehow travels to India every summer. But that one doesn't count. It can cooperate with humans, and apparently even with pigs. And this is where humans are different. We're the only species capable of combining both: flexible cooperation and large numbers. 1-on-1, or even 10-on-10, chimpanzees might win. But when it's 1,000 versus 1,000, chimpanzees simply don't stand a chance against humans. Returning to the main point, the only species capable of combining both of these abilities, flexible cooperation and large-scale cooperation, is us, Homo sapiens. 1-on-1, or even 10 versus 10, chimpanzees might win. But when it's 1,000 versus 1,000, chimpanzees simply don't stand a chance against humans. And every major achievement in human history, from hunting mammoths to building the pyramids to landing on the moon, was never based on individual strength. It was built on flexible cooperation at massive scale. Of course, cooperation doesn't always lead to good outcomes. All of the horrific things humans have done throughout history were also made possible by large-scale cooperation. Prisons are systems of cooperation. Slaughterhouses are systems of cooperation. Concentration camps are systems of cooperation as well.
But what about chimpanzees? They have no slaughterhouses, no prisons, and no concentration camps. So the next question is this: why do humans possess this ability to cooperate flexibly in such large numbers? All right, let's assume we all agree that humans outperform chimpanzees because of this cooperation. But what made that cooperation possible in the first place? The answer lies in our imagination. Take it slow, I'll explain. Look at chimpanzees. Their language is only capable of describing what exists directly in front of them. Very simple, immediate realities. For example, when a chimpanzee sees a banana, it signals to the others, "Hey, there's a banana over there." When it sees a lion, it screams something like, "Run, there's a lion." Their language, at its core, is only used to describe what is physically present. Humans, however, are very different. We can do far more than that. Human language doesn't just describe reality, it creates new realities, fictional ones. We can tell each other stories about gods living somewhere beyond the clouds, supreme beings watching over every move we make. And because of that, we believe we must follow certain rules and laws. If we don't, we will be punished. No one has ever seen these gods, and yet, strangely enough, we believe. We imagine them, and then we voluntarily live by the rules that come with that imagination. In simple terms, that's the origin of religion. Through imagination, through belief in shared stories, humans are able to come together and generate the power of the collective. With collective power, we achieve great things, and through those achievements, we gradually gain control over the world. Chimpanzees, on the other hand, live individual lives. Each one searches for its own bananas. At best, a small group of around 10 close individuals might share food with each other, but they cannot sit down together, imagine a future, and build an entire banana plantation, because that would require cooperation among hundreds of chimpanzees. And that's why today, chimpanzees live in zoos or research labs, while humans control the planet. This is the power of imagination and shared fiction. By now, you probably have a rough sense of how powerful it is. But in reality, imagination is far more frightening than most people realize. It's not by accident that Homo sapiens ended up dominating all other animals. Stories of faith have convinced millions of people to believe, to study, to contribute, to fight, and even to die for an ideal. And these religious mechanisms became the foundation of modern society. Millions of people gathered to build massive temples and fortified cities. They were willing to fight and sacrifice themselves for kings, rulers, and leaders. From there, others continued writing new theories and new stories, and once again, countless people believed in those fictions. Chimpanzees, by contrast, only eat bananas and share them within small groups of 10 or so. They cannot sacrifice themselves to build monumental structures like humans do. They cannot imagine that their effort could become something greater than themselves. For them, life is simple. Spend this many calories, get this many bananas back. That's it. Don't even try to convince them otherwise. That is the difference. Living like a chimpanzee or living like a Homo sapiens, the choice is entirely yours. At its core, earlier generations of humans sacrificed enormous amounts of effort and resources, and most of them never got to enjoy the results of their labor. But those achievements didn't disappear. They were passed down to later generations, helping ensure their survival. Those generations then stood on what came before them and created new achievements for the next ones, and so on. At the same time, earlier generations themselves benefited from what came before them. And through this endless cycle, a continuous chain of extraordinary human achievements was formed. From stone tools and fire, to bronze and iron, then the Industrial Revolution, and today, AI, artificial intelligence. From primitive caves to fortified cities, towering temples, and skyscrapers that pierce the sky.
In the end, every achievement humanity has ever made rests on the efforts of countless generations, where those who came before left their chengguo for those who came after. And what made people willing to do this, voluntarily, was imagination and belief. They believed that what they were doing was good, meaningful, and worth dedicating their lives to. But here's where a flaw begins to appear.
What if a group of people exploits that belief for personal gain, allowing themselves to enjoy the rewards before others of the same generation? Or what if they seize the benefits of the majority to serve a small group, a family, a bloodline, or a ruling class? Congratulations, you now have tyranny, where one group dominates everyone else. Tyranny doesn't exist only within governments or social systems. It appears in many different forms, and religion is one of them. Religion is not merely belief. It can become the ultimate weapon of power. You might think religion exists to save souls, but for emperors and kings, religion was an invisible chain used to bind the human mind. When weapons and armies cannot reach the mind, belief poured into the heart can. From proclaiming oneself the son of heaven, the child of the gods, to founding private sects and deifying oneself, rulers didn't just want to govern land, they wanted to rule the souls of their people. They didn't need iron shackles to control your body. All they had to do was make you believe that disobedience was a sin against heaven. And so people bowed their heads, not out of fear of punishment, but because they believed God or the divine was watching them from somewhere distant and all-powerful. What you call conscience or the sacred may very well be a blueprint written in sealed palace chambers, where commandments were not meant to enlighten, but to protect the throne. Returning to the core idea, at its foundation, every element of society rests on one simple thing: belief. And belief is born from imagination. All of us are imagining a better future. Take a few familiar examples. You've probably heard a lot about concepts like human rights or democracy, but these are not objective, physical realities. You can dissect a human body, see the heart, liver, lungs, intestines, but you will never find a right inside. For rights to exist, we must imagine them into being. The same applies to economics. What are corporations like Google, Apple, or Microsoft really? They are not just groups of people, nor merely buildings and machines. They are collections of invisible agreements, constraints, and shared meanings, things that only exist because we collectively imagine and accept them. And the greatest story ever created by human imagination, do you know what it is? Not religion, not gods. It's money. Yes, money. I genuinely cannot understand how we are able to hold a piece of polymer with a few numbers printed on it and somehow turn that into clothes, vehicles, houses, everything in life. It sounds completely irrational. And yet, somehow, it works flawlessly. If a monkey wants to drink coconut water, it must gather enough bananas to trade for a coconut. And naturally, a monkey in Africa has almost no chance of drinking coconut water from monkeys in South America. But with money, humans can do exactly that. Money cannot be eaten, drunk, or worn, and yet society collectively believes it can be exchanged for goods. We all agree to use money instead of bananas for trade, an invention so powerful it borders on miraculous. Convincing over 7 billion people that printed paper or polymer with numbers has value is an extraordinary achievement. Now think bigger. Think about how we run economies, how we organize and deploy human labor. Chimpanzees don't have any of that. They live by one simple reality: no work, no food. Hard work compensates for weakness. No money, no paperwork, no contracts. Life stays simple. In summary, humans control the world because we live in a dual reality, and that dual reality creates obedience and cooperation. Through cooperation, we achieve greatness, and through those achievements, we gradually take control of the world. Other animals only know trees, rivers, oceans, and mountains. Humans live with those things too, but we also live with invisible values: gods, human rights, money, corporations. Today, many decisions that directly impact forests, rivers, land, and oceans are made not by physical forces but by invisible entities. If you found this podcast episode interesting, don't hesitate to leave a like, a share, or a subscribe. Who knows,
The next episode might be useful to you.